The galaxy had many secrets, but none older than the map. It was not made of paper or stone, but of light. A vast star map, stretching across the great hall of the archive on Davron Prime. It shone like a sky full of stars, each point glowing with a tiny flame, each one a world, a system, a memory of something greater. For thousands of years, scholars had walked beneath it. They had traced lines between the stars, whispering their names, learning the great histories. Of the civilizations that rose and fell, some points of light were dim, meaning those worlds were gone. Their empires crumbled to dust. Some burned brightly, filled with life and war and trade. The map was a record of everything that ever was, or so the galaxy believed. But on this night, the map betrayed a secret. Archivist Selvar, a thin alien with pale green skin and wide eyes, stood alone in the hall. His claws tapped nervously against the glowing floor. He had studied the map for decades, learning its codes, its hidden layers. Yet now, for the first time, he saw something that should not be. A gap. It was small, easy to miss. Between two known systems, Rinner and Vexer, there was space, empty and dark. But it should not have been empty. There's old scrolls. The oldest fragments in the archive spoke of another star that once burned there. A star that should have had at least one world. And that world, according to forbidden whispers, was unlike any other. Selvar leaned closer. His heart raced. The light strands of the map shifted, responding to his touch. He expanded the region. Still nothing. A hole in history. A piece of the galaxy erased. Impossible, he whispered. But the map did not lie. The more he searched, the more he realized the truth. The gap was not an accident. It was hidden. Someone, long ago, had removed it. Not destroyed it, removed it, as if afraid of what others might find. And that was when the fear began. For the legends of his people spoke of a world so dangerous, so strange that the galaxy itself agreed never to speak of it again. A world where storms raged harder than the vacuum of space, where predators hunted even the strongest armies, and where the natives were unlike any known race. The scrolls called them the Forgotten, but in the whispers of smugglers and exiles, they had another name. Humans. Selvar froze as the name came to him. He had not heard it in years. Not in official studies, for the council had banned it. But the smugglers spoke freely. They told stories of wars no one remembered, of fleets that vanished without a trace, of enemies who underestimated the Forgotten and paid the price. He felt the hairs rise along his arms. If the map was correct, then the Forgotten world had been real. If the gap was proof, then someone had gone to great lengths to hide it. But why? A sudden coldness filled the hall. The glowing lights dimmed as if sensing his thoughts. For the first time in his long life, Selvar felt watched. He turned. The hall was empty. Shadows stretched along the walls, yet he felt the weight of. Eyes on him, the map shimmered again, its light bending strangely. Then, only for a moment, the gap filled with a flicker. A star, burning faintly, like an echo, and beside it, a world, a single blue world. Selvar's breath caught. His claws dug into the console. The world shone bright and alive for a heartbeat, and then it was gone. The map went dark, returning to its normal state. The gap was empty again. Selvar stumbled backward. His mind raced. Had he imagined it? Or had the map revealed something it was never meant to? The sound of boots echoed in the hall. Selvar froze. He knew those footsteps. Heavy, metallic, unyielding. Not scholars. Not friends, council guards. They appeared in the doorway, armored and faceless. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready to fire. Ow. The leader's voice was cold. Step away from the map, archivist. Selvar's throat went dry. Oh, you knew, he whispered. You all knew. That world, it was real. The guard did not answer. But the silence was worse than words. Selvar realized then the truth. The council had hidden the world on purpose. They had erased it from history. It sealed it away because they feared it. But if the map had revealed it again, if the gap was no longer stable, then something was happening. Something the galaxy was not ready for. Selvar's last thought, before the guards reached him, was not of fear, but of wonder. If that world was truly returning, then the galaxy was about to remember the forgotten, and nothing would ever be the same again. The council chamber was silent, yet the silence felt heavier than 1,000 voices. The circular hall, built from silver stone, stood high above the capital city of Devron Prime. Outside, starships drifted like insects against the night. Inside, the most powerful leaders of the galaxy sat in a ring, their faces tense, their eyes fixed on the glowing table in the center. On the table lay a projection of the star map. It flickered faintly, showing the gap Selvar had found. The Speaker of the Council, an ancient being with skin like cracked obsidian, raised his voice. The Archivist has seen too much. He must not speak again. The words fell cold, like iron chains. Round the hall, the other leaders did not argue. They simply nodded. To them, the decision was already made, but one voice broke the silence. A younger counselor, Yaren of the Meow race, leaned forward. His golden eyes burned with unease. You erase the world again, but for how long? If the map itself remembers, then can we keep it hidden forever? The speaker's gaze turned sharp. We must. That world is a danger to every star, every people, every life. You know the stories. You know the wars. Jiran's throat tightened. He had heard the stories all his life, but they were half-whispers, shadows of history. Wars fought against an enemy that should not have existed, fleets crushed by an empire no one dared name, and then silence. As if a hand had swept across the galaxy and erased the truth. But now, the silence was cracking. Another counselor spoke, her voice sharp as glass. The forgotten must remain forgotten. If they return, if the others learn of them, the galaxy will burn again. Jaren's hands clenched under the table. The word echoed in his mind. Forgotten. It was not the true name, but it was the only one spoken aloud. The one whispered in old smuggler songs. The one Selvar had dared to uncover humans. The very thought chilled him. The speaker slammed his staff against the floor. Enough. We erase the record again. The map will be sealed. The Archivist will be dealt with, if the signal repeats. His voice dropped lower. Then we prepare for war. The chamber darkened. The meeting was over. But Yaren did not rise. His mind was restless. If the galaxy's oldest map itself revealed the world, then perhaps it was not just memory it was warning. Outside the chamber, the capital glittered with 1,000,000 lights. But to Yaren, the stars above seemed darker, as if something vast was moving among them. He whispered to himself, what if they are not gone at all? Far away, deep beyond the council's reach, a ship drifted through black space. Its hull was old, scarred with battles, patched with metals no modern forge could replicate. For centuries, it had slept cloaked in silence. Its engines were quiet, its weapons locked. But now, deep within its core, something stirred. Lights flickered on in the command deck. Screens awoke, showing systems long forgotten. The ship trembled, as if taking a first breath after endless years, and in its memory banks, a voice whispered in a language no alien tongue could translate. Reactivation complete. Earth protocol engaged. The ship's sensors opened like eyes. They scanned the stars. They felt the pulse of the galaxy. They detected something that made their ancient core respond. The map. Somewhere across light years, the galaxy had remembered. And the ship was answering, back on Devron Prime. Selvar sat in a cold cell. His hands were chained, his body weak. The guards had taken everything, his notes, his scrolls, even his voice recorder. But they could not take what he had seen. He whispered to himself in the darkness. Blue world. It was there. I saw it. They cannot deny it forever. He did not know if the council would silence him tonight or tomorrow, but it did not matter. The truth was already awake. For outside the reach of the council, in the far black between suns, a forgotten signal pulsed again. It was faint, older, than empires older than the council itself, and it carried one word, burned into the stars themselves. Earth. The patrol ship Vayner cruised through the outer sectors of Council space. Its crew of 10 was bored, their scanners sweeping empty void for smugglers or pirate nests. Nothing ever happened this far from the trade lanes. The stars were quiet. The silence was endless. Until the silence broke, the navigator's console beeped sharply. A faint pulse appeared on the long-range screen. First it looked like background noise, some old debris echoing signals. But then it repeated, precise, rhythmic. "Captain," the navigator said, his voice tense. "We have something." Captain, a broad-shouldered Thal, walked over. His eyes narrowed as he studied the signal. The pattern was old, yet strong. It carried a code no modern ship used. "What is it?" asked the first officer. The navigator swallowed. "A distress beacon, but not one in our database. This design, it's thousands of years old." The captain frowned. "Mark the source. Distance. To parsecs out. In the dead zone." The bridge went quiet. The dead zones were regions of space. No one entered. No trade, no colonies, no life, just silence. Some said they were cursed. Others said they held wrecks of wars too ancient to remember. Few dared to test those tales. But orders were orders. The council demanded all signals be investigated. "Set." "Of course," the captain ordered. "We'll see what Ghost is calling." The Vayner's engines burned, pulling the patrol ship toward the dead zone. The closer they came, the clearer the beacon grew. It was steady, mechanical, repeating the same call again and again. But then the navigator's skin went pale. "Captain, the language. Can't translate it. Not fully." "Try the console." Flickered. A rough translation scrolled across the screen. 4 words appeared. "United Earth ship. Assistance required." The bridge froze. No one moved. The captain's voice was low. "Earth. Did you say Earth?" The navigator nodded shakily. "Yes, Captain. That's what it says." Whispers filled the bridge. Earth was a forbidden word, a shadow out of legend. None of them had ever spoken it aloud. The council had erased it. Yet here it was, calling across the void. Moments later, their ship entered the dead zone, and there it was. A massive silhouette floated in the dark, cold and silent. Larger than any council warship, its black hull scarred but unbroken. Strange markings lined its surface, symbols none of the crew understood. On its side, still visible through dust and damage, were words. U.S. Nemesis. The crew fell silent. Their hearts raced, were looking at something no living being was meant to see. The patrol ship's scanners swept across it. The results made the captain's throat tighten. "This ship, it's active," the officer whispered. "Fully, but its systems are alive." After thousands of years, the beacon stopped. The Vayner's lights flickered. The engines hummed strangely. Something vast, something ancient, had reached into their systems. And then a voice filled the bridge. It was not alien. It was not council. It was human, unidentified vessel. "You have entered Earth-controlled space. Identify or be destroyed." Crew froze. The patrol ship shook, as if caught in a predator's gaze. Our scanners went wild, showing weapon systems on the Nemesis powering up, though the ship looked half dead. The captain's voice cracked. "Respond, quickly." The first officer stammered. "We were a council patrol? You mean no harm." Silence followed. The crew waited, every breath heavy. Then the voice spoke again, colder. "Council. Detected. Warning. Council presence unauthorized. Vacate Earth space immediately." The bridge crew looked at their captain, fear burning in their eyes. None dared to speak the truth that Earth was gone, that no one even knew where it was. And yet here was a ship claiming this void as its own. The Nemesis's weapons glowed brighter. The captain made his choice. Retreat. Now, the patrol ship turned, engines burning hard. As they fled, the crew watched in horror as the Nemesis drifted back into silence, its weapons dimmed, its lights fading. But they knew it was not gone. It was waiting. Watching back on Dalvern Prime, the council received the report. The chamber erupted in panic and fear. Some denied it, others shouted for war, others demanded silence. But the speaker only whispered one word: humans. And across the stars, the nemesis stirred again. Its message was clear. The forgotten were no longer forgotten. The council chamber was not silent this time. It roared with chaos. Dozens of voices clashed, filling the great ringed hall with panic. Some shouted that the patrol crew must be silenced. Others demanded fleets to be raised. Still more called for the nemesis to be destroyed before it fully awoke, but not one voice dared to suggest ignoring it. The speaker slammed his staff down, and the chamber dimmed. His cracked black skin glistened under the cold light as he raised his hand. "Order," he growled. The voices quieted. "The nemesis has revealed itself. You all know what this means. The legends were not legends." His words echoed like thunder. Counselor Jaren's heart pounded. He wanted to speak, but the weight of the moment pressed his throat closed. His people had whispered of the forgotten for generations. Now those whispers were alive, breathing fire into the galaxy. Finally, Yaren rose. His golden eyes shone with unease. If one ship has awakened, how many more might be out there? How many human war machines still sleep in the dark? The chamber fell still. The question hung heavy like a blade over every world. No one answered. Far from the council, the Vainer limped into a hidden dockyard, its crew pale and silent. They were ordered into isolation, every word of their report locked behind sealed walls. The council did not want the galaxy to know what they had found. Not yet. But secrets never stay buried. Among the crew, whispers spread like fire. A one word, repeated again and again in hushed tones: Earth, while the council tried to contain the truth. The truth was already moving faster than their orders, because in the dark between stars, the nemesis was not still. Its engines flared, faint but alive. The massive warship drifted forward, turning its gaze toward inhabited space. Its hull groaned with ancient power, and deep inside, the ship's core hummed with voices. Status check. Weapons functional. Shields minimal. Long-range scans active. The nemesis did not think like a living being, but it remembered. Every battle. Every war. Every command burned into its soul, and it remembered its enemies. The council, the patrol ship, had carried their signature, their codes, their voices. The nemesis recognized them. They were the same as the ones who had betrayed Earth. On Devron, Prime Selver, the archivist, sat in his cold cell. His eyes burned with exhaustion, yet his mind was sharp. He knew what he had seen. He knew the council was hiding it. But even locked away, he felt it, a weight in the air. A storm rising, he whispered to the darkness. They are coming back. Above him, the council chamber continued its debate. Strike it before it strikes us, one counselor demanded. Do you not remember what happened last time? Another spat. Last time was thousands of years ago. The speaker raised his staff again. Silence. We will not argue like frightened children. The nemesis is only one ship. Old. Damaged. If it awakens fully, then we will act. Until then, we watch. But Yaren could not stay silent. He rose. Again his voice sharp. We cannot watch. The map revealed the world. The nemesis answered. This is not coincidence. This is the beginning. If the humans return, the speaker cut him off, his voice thunderous. If they return, then we will erase them again. The chamber shook with the weight of his words. But Yaren saw fear in the speaker's eyes. Deep, hidden, but real. That night, as the council's fleets shifted into hidden positions, spies whispered across the stars, the nemesis made its first move. It broadcast a signal, not a threat, not a demand, but a beacon. Across the void, satellites long forgotten stirred awake. Old machines hidden on dead worlds blinked to life. Tiny probes buried in asteroid belts rose from their graves. Each one carried the same code. Each one repeated the same word: Earth. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, something else heard the call. A fleet, not council, not alien. Not anything the galaxy had prepared for. Old human ships, silent for millennia, began to turn their bows toward the stars. The forgotten were gathering, and the galaxy would soon remember why they had been erased. The signals spread like wildfire, though few dared to admit it. Across quiet trade routes and mining colonies and pirate dens and hidden stations, the word began to circulate Earth. At first, it was only a whisper, a drunken story in a tavern, a smuggler's tale of an ancient warship rising from the void. But soon the whispers grew louder, and the galaxy remembered what it had tried so hard to forget. The humans. On Devon Prime, Yaren could feel the fear rising. The Council had locked down every report, silenced the patrol crew, erased every trace of the Nemesis from the record. But fear has no chains. The rumors spread anyway, moving faster than the Council's lies. He walked the corridors of the capital. At night, watching citizens whisper in the shadows, they had heard enough. They knew something was stirring in the stars. And in the depths of the prison, Selvar the archivist heard the whispers too. Guards spoke quietly when they thought no. One listened. They spoke of the ship, the Nemesis, the beacon. Selvar smiled to himself in the dark. They can't bury it again, he whispered. Not this time. Far away, the Nemesis drifted through the void, its ancient systems burning brighter. The beacon continued to pulse, and now there was an answer. Small lights appeared in the dark ships, old broken hulls that should not have flown. Fragments of a forgotten fleet. One by one they moved toward the Nemesis. Some limped, some glided. All answered the call. The Nemesis scanned them, and deep inside its core, a decision. Formed reconstruction protocol. Engaged. The ships aligned themselves around the Nemesis like children returning to a parent. Docking clamps extended. Systems linked. By piece, the forgotten fleet began to awaken. On the Council's spy networks, alarms rang. There. Hidden eyes saw the movement, and panic spread. In the chamber, the speaker's voice thundered again. They gather. Even broken, they dare to rise. We must not hesitate. We strike now. But Yaren stood, his voice sharp. Strike them.
How with?
What? We do not know their strength. We do not know how many ships they still hold. You speak of war, but it is war we may not win. His words struck the chamber cold. The speaker's cracked black face turned toward him. Do you fear them, young counselor? Jiran's golden eyes blazed. I fear the truth. That everything we were told of the forgotten was not to protect us, but to protect the Council's power. Gasps rippled through the chamber. But before the speaker could answer, a message flashed across the hall. Urgent, immediate. A trade fleet near the edge of Council space had vanished. No wreckage. No distress call. Only silence. The chamber froze. They all knew what that meant. The Nemesis had moved far from Council eyes. In the dead black between suns, the human warship glided silently. Its weapons were cold, yet deadly. Its fleet had broken. Companions followed. The trade ships had seen them. That was enough. Now they were gone. The Nemesis did not announce itself. It did not boast. It simply erased its targets, just as it had done long ago. The galaxy trembled. Back in his cell, Selvar closed his eyes. He could feel it even without seeing it. The return of something vast, unstoppable. A tide that no wall could hold. And in the shadows of the city, whispers changed. No longer fear, but awe. Some called the humans monsters. Yes. Others called them saviors. Old slave races whispered that perhaps the humans had returned to break chains again. Pirates wondered if they had returned to burn the Council down. Traders wondered if they would rule the stars. No one agreed on what they were. But everyone agreed on one thing. The forgotten were awake, and they were moving. The Council fleet assembled. In silence, dozens of warships hung in the black above Devon Prime, their hulls gleaming with cold light. They were the pride of the galaxy massive destroyers, agile frigates, armored carriers. Together, they were meant to be unstoppable. And yet, every captain felt the same fear. They had been called to hunt the Nemesis in the command ship Cirith. Admiral Corrin stared at the star map projected before him. His scales twitched uneasily. He had fought pirates, rebels, even rival empires, but nothing like this. The Nemesis was not an enemy they understood. It was too old, too quiet, too human. Location, he asked. His officers shifted nervously. Last trace was near the Celdran corridor, Admiral. But then, nothing. It vanished. Corrin's jaw tightened. A ship that size should not vanish. And yet it had. Spread the fleet, he ordered. Search pattern. If it is out there, we will find it. But even as he spoke, a thought gnawed at him. What if the Nemesis wanted them to find it? Far away, Selvar sat in his dark cell, his body weak but his mind sharper than ever. Could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. Council would silence him soon, he knew it. But before that moment came, the cell door slid open. Counselor Yaren stepped inside. His golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. You should not be here, Selvar rasped. And yet I am, Yaren replied. He leaned closer, his voice low. Tell me the truth. What did you see on the map? Selvar's lips curved into a thin smile. You already know. You've always known. The council erased it, but they could not erase it from the stars. Yaren whispered. The word felt heavy on his tongue. Selvar nodded slowly. Yes, and if the Nemesis walks again, then Earth is not gone. It waits. Jaren's chest tightened. He wanted to deny it, to bury the thought like the council had. But he could not. The rumors were too strong, the fear too real, the hope too dangerous. Before he could speak again, alarms blared across the prison. The floor shook, the walls trembled. Selvar's eyes widened. They've found it. The council fleet emerged from warp at the edge of the Celdran corridor. The stars there were cold, pale things, and the void felt heavier than normal, as if it watched them. Scanners active, an officer called. It's nothing yet, then the lights flickered. One by one, ships across the fleet reported system interference. Static-filled comes. Radar bent strangely, and then they saw it. The Nemesis. Drifted out of the darkness, silent and vast. It moved without engines, gliding like a ghost, its black hull absorbing starlight. Around it, smaller ships followed, broken but alive. The fleet froze. For a heartbeat, no one moved, no one spoke. Then the Nemesis spoke first. Council. Fleet detected. Warning. Vacate Earth space immediately. Final notice. Its voice was calm, cold, absolute. The Admiral's scales tightened. This is Council territory, he barked. You are an enemy relic. You will be destroyed. The Nemesis was silent for a long moment. Then its weapons lit up, burning with ancient power, and the battle began. The first volley shattered 3 Council frigates instantly. No shields, no defenses, just silence as their hulls cracked and burned. The fleet returned fire. Hundreds of beams lashing out across the void. The Nemesis took them all. Its shields flared, its hull scarred, but it kept moving. It fired again, tearing through a destroyer as if it were paper. Impossible, Admiral Corrin roared. All ships, focus fire, bring it down. The void. Filled with light, with fire, with the screams of dying crews. The Nemesis moved like a predator among prey, every strike precise, every shot fatal. And its fleet of broken companions swarmed, ramming, firing, tearing into the Council's lines. But the worst was not the destruction. The worst was the silence. The Nemesis did not boast. It did not rage. It killed without a sound, as if the outcome had already been decided long before the battle began. Admiral Corrin stared at his burning fleet, despair clawing at him. This is no ship. This is a grave. And in that moment he knew the truth. The humans had not been erased. Had only been waiting. The Celdran corridor was silent once more, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of death. Wreckage drifted across the void. glowing faintly as fires burned in the black. Dozens of council warships were gone, their hulls cracked open, their crews lost to the endless night. What remained floated helplessly, broken and bleeding light, and at the center of it all, the Nemesis drifted calmly, its hull scarred but strong. Its escorts, the broken fleet it had gathered, circled like wolves guarding their alpha. They had taken damage, but none had fallen. The battle was over. The Nemesis had won. On the command ship, Cirith Admiral Corrin stood in silence. His scales were pale, his hands trembling as he stared at the burning wreckage of his fleet. His officers did not look at him. They had no words, no comfort. The Nemesis's voice filled the void again. Cutting through comes like a knife. Council forces defeated. Earth's space remains sovereign. This is your first and final warning. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the Nemesis vanished into the dark. No warp signature, no trail. It was simply gone, like a shadow swallowed by night. Corrin sank in too. His chair? He knew what this meant. The galaxy was no longer safe. The Council's fleets were not strong enough. And worst of all, this had only been one ship on Devron Prime. Chaos erupted when news reached the capital. The Council tried to hide the truth, but survivors had already spoken. Smugglers carried the story. Traitors repeated it. Citizens whispered it. The humans had returned. Crowds filled the streets, shouting, demanding answers. Some screamed for protection, begging the Council to save them. Others cried out in joy, claiming the humans were liberators, not conquerors. Old slave races shouted that their chains would break again, for the humans had done it once before. The speaker tried to silence them, but even his staff could not drown the rising roar. The galaxy remembered, and in his cell, Selvar heard the distant sound of protest echoing through the city. He smiled, his voice a whisper in the dark. It has begun. Meanwhile, Counselor Yaren stood at his window, staring into the night sky. His heart was heavy, torn between fear and awe. He thought of the Nemesis. Tearing through a fleet that should have been unstoppable, he thought of the word that now burned across every world Earth. The more he thought, the more he realized the truth. The Council could not stop this. No one could. The humans had returned, and the galaxy would bend to them again, whether through fire or through freedom. Jern clenched his fists. Perhaps that is what we need, he whispered. Far from Devron Prime, the Nemesis glided silently toward uncharted space. Its escorts followed, loyal and broken, bound by ancient code. Inside its command deck, systems flickered alive, anew. Signal pulsed. Primary objective, secure. Secondary objective, initiate reclamation protocol. The ship's scanners stretched far across the void, searching, reaching, touching old machines hidden on forgotten worlds. Each one stirred awake, in abandoned bunkers, in sealed vaults, in silent shipyards buried beneath dead moon's lights. Flickered on, engines rumbled, weapons charged. The Nemesis was not alone anymore. 1,000 hidden human relics began to awaken, answering the call. On Devron Prime, the speaker finally spoke to the Council. His voice was heavy, his eyes filled. With fear, we cannot let them rise again. If humanity returns, we are finished. But Yaren stood, his golden eyes burned. No, if they return, perhaps we are saved. The chamber erupted in shouts, split between fear and hope. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was divided not by trade, not by war, but by one question: were the humans the end of everything? Or the beginning of something greater? And in the dark, the Nemesis whispered to the stars, reclamation begins. The galaxy was about to learn the answer. The galaxy held its breath. Every world, every station, every ship, from the great core systems to the far edge of the rim, the story of the Nemesis had spread, and now the stars themselves seemed to shiver because something was coming. It began with whispers, strange signals echoing through the void, old frequencies that had not been used in 20,000 years. They pulsed across the stars like heartbeats. The Council tried to block them, tried to jam them, but it was useless. Signals were too strong, too old, too precise, and with every pulse, something awakened. On dead moons, vaults opened. On broken asteroids, machines hummed back to life. Beneath oceans, beneath ice, beneath deserts, old weapons stirred. Forgotten warships rose from their tombs, engines burning bright once more. A network of relics hidden for millennia was coming alive, and they were all answering one call: Earth's call. On Devron Prime, panic spread like fire. Citizens filled the streets, pointing to the sky as new stars began to shine. But these were not stars. They were ships. Hundreds of them, rising from secret places. Selvar stood in his cell, listening to the chaos. He whispered the words his people had once spoken long ago: they are coming. Inside the council chamber, voices screamed over each other. We must unite. We must strike now. We must surrender before it is too late. The speaker slammed his hand down. Enough. We face extinction if we do not act. Councillor Yaren only rose to his feet, his voice calm, steady, carrying through the chaos. No, we do not face extinction. We face judgment. The chamber froze. All eyes turned to him. Jaren's gaze was hard. The humans are not invaders. They are not conquerors. They are a storm, and a storm does not come to destroy. It comes to cleanse, to change everything. And maybe that is what we need. The chamber erupted again, half in rage, half in fearful silence. And then the sky broke open. A ripple cut across the galaxy, so vast it was seen from every world. Hyperlanes cracked and glowed, gravity bent. Space itself seemed to twist. The Nemesis returned. It appeared above Devron Prime without warning, its massive shadow covering the capital. But this time, it was not alone. Behind it stretched a fleet so vast that even the Council's greatest armadas looked small. Hundreds of ships, thousands, all ancient, all human. They spread across the system like a wall of fire and steel. The Council's fleets did not even raise their weapons. They knew it was useless. The Nemesis spoke. Its voice was colder than ever, yet carried with it something deeper, something final. Reclamation is complete. Humanity has returned. Silence gripped the galaxy. On one world, slaves wept with hope. On another, rulers trembled in fear. On Devron Prime, the speaker's face went pale, and in the shadows of his cell, Selvar smiled. The humans had not just returned. They had come to reclaim everything. The Nemesis turned its gaze toward the oldest star map, the one that had begun it all. In its records, every world in the galaxy shone, every star, every system, except one Earth. For 20,000 years, the humans had hidden their home. Even now, not a single ship could find it. Not a single map showed it. It was the greatest mystery of all. The Nemesis whispered into the silence, a voice meant for no one and everyone. Earth is not lost. Earth is watching. Then the fleet moved, vanishing into the black. Not an invasion, not an occupation. It's just a reminder. They were out there. They were awake. They were watching. Across the galaxy, a new fear spread. Not of war, not of destruction, but of waiting. Because every ruler, every soldier, every citizen now knew one truth. The humans could return at any time. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same again.